Aquinas' fourth argument for the existence of God in the Summa Theologiae is the one that is perhaps least evident to us in the modern scientific era, but it is tenable and it's very profound, so it's worth thinking about. It's the argument from the degrees of perfection. So what Aquinas argues is that there are certain kinds of perfections in reality that of themselves don't need to imply any kind of limitation. So think about a perfection like a degree of whiteness or blackness, red or purple. Well, those are degrees of perfection in the order of color. You might say, well, that's a more perfect shade of red, and that's a more diminished shade of red. But you can't attribute that to all things or think of a kind of infinite redness. It makes no sense to talk about all things being red or all things being white or all things being musical. Those are perfections that are limited by their very nature. But then contrast that with ideas like existence or being or unity or truth or goodness or beauty, the so-called transcendentals. These are features or characteristics of reality that in a certain way are present in all things. All things that exist, insofar as they exist, have a certain kind of being. They have a certain kind of goodness to them, however humble or exalted. They have a certain unity to them. They have a certain truth or intelligibility to them that precedes our intellectual understanding. And they have a certain beauty, an integrity, a wholeness, a splendor, however modest or however exalted, their degrees of beauty or goodness. Okay, so then Aquinas is going to say, look, there's a spectrum or a range of these perfections in things. They're present in everything. They can go all the way, as it were, to the infinite in principle. There's no delimiting factor a priori that has to be assigned to them. But we do see them emerge according to a spectrum of perfections or differentiations. So things can be more or less existent according to, you might say, perfections of quantitative endurance or necessity. They can exist in different ways according to different grades, a non-living thing, a living thing that has a spiritual soul, like a human being. They can exist according to degrees and kinds of goodness. You can have the goodness of a mere humble physical thing that has a kind of natural goodness to it insofar as it just exists and has a place in the natural order. But there's a more characteristic goodness, like we say, well, this is a good specimen of this plant or flower, or this is a good specimen of this kind of animal, or this is a good specimen of a human being, and it has human perfections, whether they be artistic perfections or whether they be intellectual or moral perfections. Okay, so there's a range of kinds of goodness and also beauty and being emergent in things. Now, Aquinas then says, if everything in the universe has some participation in these modes of perfection, being, goodness, beauty, truth, how is it that we all share in this intelligible order of a scale of perfections that we are not the cause of, but none of the realities in the scale are themselves the cause of it, and yet it has this deeper unity and intelligibility? And here there's a passage from, you might say, the intelligible order of the scale of perfection to the causal argument for there being a transcendent exemplary cause of the divine wisdom that is the source of the scale in a transcendent and distinct way. That's to say, God in his, you might say, divine mind, or his divine being, his divine goodness, is the transcendent originator of the scale of perfections that we participate in or partake of according to this set of transcendental characteristics of goodness, being, beauty. So none of us are, as it were, an autonomous measure, you might say, of the being, goodness, beauty, and truth of the reality of the world. All of us fall within, you could call it a pre-existent or an embedded measure that's in the reality of this scale of perfections. And the scale that, as it were, is manifest in us or embedded in us shows that there's something, as it were, before us, transcendent, intelligent, exemplary, that's giving being to and is the source of the order of the scale of perfections in the reality that is in us and around us. And so God must be himself some kind of transcendent being, transcendent goodness, transcendent beauty, transcendent unity, that we don't know, that remains incomprehensible. He's not one in the scale. He's not like the infinite edge of the scale. He's the originator of the entire scale of created perfections, but is himself not included in that scale of perfections, but is its originator and incomprehensible and unknown source. We can derive knowledge from creation that he must exist, but we don't comprehend him, as it were, within the total set of creatures, but only as the hidden architect and origin of that set of creatures, who it bears witness to, but who also remains in some real sense, philosophically speaking, mysterious and unknown to us.